This week's episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
Gamefly.
And Squarespace.
I was excited to hear about your Settlers of Catan.
I think it might be better
than Munchkin? No!
Let me just say, it's
That's blasphemy,
freaking awesome. You've got it's like a mix between the social bargaining stuff of Munchkin.
Okay.
It's got
Do you do the screwing of your friend?
Yeah, I mean you're playing against each other.
All right,
It's got like that social kind of like making a deal aspect. It's kind of like Civilization, where there's more than one way to win.
Yeah.
And it's got like this gambling element, like this element of craps, where you're rolling dice all the time. Dudes, it's so awesome. And I played it when it came out on Xbox Live Arcade, and I couldn't really get into it, but dude, this game is totally about the physicality of having the stuff in front of you. Because it takes, there's a lot of stuff of setting it up, and a lot of pieces you have to put.
There's a lot of business.
There is, but there's something cool about that. There's something I love it, like you're putting stuff in places and there's lots of little pieces and stuff. We have to play it.
I don't, pieces feels like they get lost,
shoot.
they fall.
Damn it.
So, we meet at last, Totally Rad Show. I expect you to talk about the film, fighting, and the video games World of Warcraft 3.1 and Lode Runner. What's that, Charlie? Oh, we couldn't possibly do that to them, Charlie. Who'd clear up the mess?
Gross. You should wipe that off before you get in the house.
Sorry, I don't think it stains.
Three rad guys living normal lives are recruited by a team of super spies. Their missions classified, but you may surmise they battle evil by quoting movie lines. Game and TV guides are used like knives to quell the rise of demon samurais. We know it sounds contrived, but we tell no lies. It's as the name implies, the Totally Rad Show.
Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad. Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad. Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad. Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Totally Rad Show, episode number 110. I'm Alex Albrecht.
I'm Jeff Canada.
I'm Dan Trachtenberg.
Totally Rad Show is your weekly dose of all things rad. We go down to your local biker gangs and tell them to be security for our tapings. And then hope they don't stab people like they did when they were with the Rolling Stones.
If you live in Liberty City, that's something you might do.
It's true, yeah. It's gonna be the Death Angels or whatever they were called. What are they called?
The Lost and the Damned.
Yeah, the Lost and the Damned. There we go.
Hello.
Hey, welcome. Hello, background.
Background is
Speaking of the Lost.
moving and awesome.
Speaking of things you don't know how to pronounce.
So this guy's name is Hogney.
What do you think? The O has a line through it.
H-O with a line through it, G-N-I.
So I'm sure all of our international viewers know exactly how to
I'm
pronounce
going,
that
what?
O.
It's Hognord. What are you doing? You guys are morons.
But we appreciate you
What do you
sending
mean?
this
Dude,
awesome
awesome.
background.
And it's actually, the logo is the light on the water, in case
Yeah.
you haven't seen it. So go to the website and
In
check
case
it
you
out.
haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's right there.
I mean, it's like, actually, what would be great is if we had like Mike in the back with a strobe and could match it, so that like we got brighter.
that would be
we got
awesome.
brighter as it came around. Guess what? We're not
gonna
doing
happen.
that. You know what we are gonna do though? Get into a really freaking awesome show.
This week in movies, we've got some interesting news to discuss, but before that, we're going to chat a little bit about the movie Fighting that opened this past week. So whenever people poo-poo Shia LaBeouf or Channing Tatum, I always point them to an amazing movie called, maybe it'll come, I don't know what you're confused about, A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, which is an awesome movie. I really recommend it. Jeff checked it out. You liked it as well,
I did like it a lot.
Yeah. That is directed by a guy named Dito Montiel, who reteams. Who reteams. It's autobiographical, but this time he reteams with Channing Tatum
So that was my question. You made it seem like I should have known who the fuck Channing Tatum was, which I didn't.
Well, Channing Tatum's in a few movies.
Coming up.
What is he
G.I.
in?
Joe.
Well, he's in G.I. Joe. He's going to star in G.I. Joe.
That's cool. Was he in?
He's in the Step Up movies. He was in Stop Loss.
Oh, okay. So he's done some movies, just none that I cared to see.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, it's Stop Loss, Step Up. None of those were movies that I.
Stop Loss is supposed to be great.
I'm sure it'll be great. I just didn't have any reason to want to see
Anyway, Dino Montiel writes and directs Fighting, which is basically an attempt to make a realistic version of the premise seen in many Van Damme movies like Lionheart
it's
or
called
whatever.
Lionheart, yeah.
And Channing Tatum plays a kid who's moved to the inner city and he's recruited to fight in these underground fights. What did you think of the movie Fighting, Jeff?
I did like Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, which I don't know if it was clear because you kind of got interrupted, but Dino Montiel wrote and directed that one also, and that was autobiographical.
Right.
This is sort of his first non-autobiographical movie.
Thank you.
And the thing about Guide to Recognizing Your Saints is it's really interesting and unconventional and feels very real and true, probably because a lot of it is. And a fascinating story, unexpected things happen. None of that is true about Fighting. Fighting is mind-numbingly conventional, predictable and formulaic start to finish. None of the characters are particularly interesting. And you have this world of underground fighting, which theoretically, if you're exploring that world, could be very fascinating and we want to know about that world. You find out nothing about that world. There's nothing interesting. In fact, the only kind of spark of interest that happens is when the lead female's grandmother comes on the screen, and when she's on the screen is the only time that there's anything even remotely realistic or fun or interesting to me at all. Worse than that is the fights aren't very good. If you have a movie called Fighting, and it's about, basically it's Karate Kid with MMA instead of karate, right? And I actually just this last weekend watched my first UFC fight, which was very interesting to me because there's so much technical stuff going on. And the problem with the fights in this movie is that they don't tell a story. The last fight is supposed to be between this guy who is very technically savvy and is the professional, and our young, scrappy kid who has no training. But that doesn't come across in any way in the fight. Whereas you could have told that story of how he overcomes this technically proficient guy with his scrappiness. It's just two dudes wrestling around on the ground.
It's interesting. You bring up my biggest point, because I'm a big MMA fan, have been for a long time. My biggest issue with this movie was that the lead fighter that we're supposed to be rooting for sucks. He's not a good fighter. He is always sort of getting his ass kicked, and for some reason keeps getting bigger and bigger fights, which I find totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
they say at one point, he's the biggest thing in town, but why?
there is no reason.
Yeah.
He's actually technically not very good at all. And yeah, I mean, this movie was better as Lionheart. I felt like I think what happened, and this is what I think just the sort of like, well, maybe this is what they went to, was rather than focusing their energy on getting into the nitty-gritty underground world, I think what happened was they went, you know what, we're gonna tell this underground fight story, and the way we're gonna tell it is by exploring the relationships more in depth. There was so much more time spent with his relationship with Terrence Howard and his relationship with this girl who there was no reason for them to even have a relationship. And there were only 4 fights. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a movie about fighting. There were 4 fights and they lasted maybe 2 minutes. So I think that what had happened was they went, admirably chose, we're gonna focus on the character development of these people and tell the story that way, rather than the fighting is the story.
I don't think the characters were interesting.
I think they failed doing it that way.
I thought that
it just was boring.
Yeah, I thought there was some good and some bad. I thought there were a lot of really good, honest, natural portrayals of characters and moments from the actors and the filmmaker, though I thought that the female, there was a lot of reeling up moments with dialogue that was very loose, and the female lead, while being a total babe, could not hang with the rest of the crew. Her way of making things more real was by just
interrupting and like
narrating exactly what she was doing.
Yeah,
she would. Yes.
So, but the other actors I thought did a very good job, and there are moments that feel very real. If you like the grandmother in this movie, I urge you to see Raising Victor Vargas, because she's the grandmother from Raising Victor Vargas.
Oh, is she?
And
she was hysterical.
It's like the difference between that and this. It's like Jackie Chan in Cannonball Run versus one of his Hong Kong films. Like Raising Victor Vargas is like, she is awesome. Right. Anyway. I actually did enjoy the fight sequences in this movie. I think it's hard to make realistic fight. I don't think it's an MMA movie. I think Red Belt is probably that, though we haven't seen it yet.
I saw it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Not so good. You don't want to put pill on your boy.
I love Man.
Yeah. Anyway, a real fight is very messy and sloppy and uninteresting to watch, other than if you're on YouTube and you're like, oh my God, that guy really hit that guy. Because it's just a mess.
Well, not MMA fights.
Not MMA fights,
MMA
but
fights.
that is not the same thing as two dudes actually fighting that aren't trained fighters. And I think that this movie did a good job at being a little bit more realistic, but also being cinematically interesting. I think that it cured what happens in a lot of fight movies with things feeling routine and rehearsed and a dance. It's not, I think that could be pushed a little further one day, but I did think it did a good job, and I kind of disagree. I mean, you made some, I think, valid points, but I felt like, for one, I remember Quentin Tarantino talking about Kill Bill, the fight sequences, as he was going to think about every punch, everything.
Right.
And it still came across as very routine. And for me, I thought these fight sequences were very like, each thing had an answer to it.
Well, it wasn't like
in
a Bourne fight.
In a real way.
Mean?
No one was superhuman in the movie. The last thing my biggest problem was I was excited for this movie and these filmmakers to hone in on the metaphor of fighting in the way that Rocky does and The Wrestler does.
Yeah.
And it never said anything introspective.
It was like, it just said,
that.
Here's a story about a fighter, that's the story, goodbye. And it was like, well, but, I mean, okay, but it wasn't even that interesting.
Right.
Of all the fighters to profile, this guy was just sort of like, well, I didn't get it. And the Terrence Howard, I didn't really dig his performance.
So
it was very stylish.
I want to further our talks about fighting, because there's been some interesting news this week. As a few months ago, Darren Aronofsky was in development on a movie called The Fighter, starring Mark Wahlberg as an Irish boxer, Mickey Ward.
So he's following up The Wrestler
with The Fighter. Well, listen, I was bummed about that, because I sort of felt like he already did, just like I said, he did that sort of wrestling or fighting as a metaphor for living, and he did a sports film. I was sort of like, why is he doing this? Well, interesting enough, Darren Aronofsky has dropped out. Filling his shoes is David O. Russell, and Matt Damon, who was going to have a part in the movie, has now been replaced by, holy crap,
I love that guy.
Oh my God.
He's a lot like Matt Damon, though.
The first half of the movie is good, and then the second half of the movie
What did the
usually
director
crap.
do before?
So David O. Russell did, he did Spanking the Monkey and Flirting with Disaster, and I Heart Huckabees. Now,
I love David O. Russell, despite the fact that he's clearly a crazy person.
Let me just say, I like to start off by saying, while I love Flirting with Disaster, it's one of my favorite comedies as well as movies, I think Three Kings is divine, and it's comedy, it's drama, and it's action, all in one flick, and it's much more commercial. It's not as
Did he do that as well?
esoteric.
That was his first movie.
Esoteric. No, Three Kings was not his first movie. Spanking the Monkey, Flirting with Disaster, and then Three Kings. But so I'm excited for David O. Russell to be doing this material because I don't want Darren Aronofsky to do it. I think he said his piece on the subject. And I think David O. Russell, for me, is much more exciting when he's doing something. He's an interesting, esoteric guy. So bringing that to something a little bit more commercial is exciting to me. And Three Kings is one of my favorite movies, and this seems to be much more in line with that.
I have a feeling you didn't like I Heart Huckabees.
And I did not like I Heart Huckabees.
I love that movie.
Right.
I
like him doing this kind of material more than
like him
I Heart Huckabees.
injecting his esotericness into commercial movies like Three Kings, rather than it just being an
sophisticatedness and smartness.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm excited just because I like fighting movies, except for the fighting movie.
Except for the movie called Fighting.
Yeah.
I'm a huge David O. Russell fan. Like I said, despite that he's clearly a crazy person.
Right.
As any kind of story you hear about David O. Russell involves him coming to blows with his actors on screen.
There's a video on YouTube of him berating Lily Tomlin on that.
Well, but even before that, George Clooney evidently got into a fist fight with him because he was being such a douche to like extras on set.
Well, clearly him and Mark Wahlberg get along because this will be their third collaboration.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the frickin' news is about this actor appearing in the movie, and I've forgotten it. So it's been here. I'm sorry, audio listeners.
And we're not audio listeners. What about us? We don't get to talk about it. You just go. Here's a piece of information on that.
Beginning of next segment, I'm going to tell you real quick, and then you can comment on it.
What about? Can I throw something out?
Yeah.
What about Predators?
Robert Rodriguez doing Predators. Yeah.
Crazy?
What?
Yeah.
Is it
I don't know.
Predator
He wrote a script.
Wait,
for
but it's a Predator
sequel
movie?
back in the day.
Oh, cool.
It's a reboot of Predator with multiple Predators.
Love
and
it.
Rodriguez, who
Whatever.
loves to F stuff up.
I don't think he will actually be making that movie.
Really?
That's why.
It's like 2012. or
Predators.
I think he'll be producing it, if even.
Punch.
I didn't mean to throw off the whole
No, that's
segment.
okay. No,
Punch
it's
out,
cool.
Predator punch.
All right, PC gamers. We did a PC game last week, which hopefully a lot of people watched and are playing because I'm still really digging Demigod. And we're going to start off with more PC game goodness this week. The game that dominates the world of Warcraft, has released its biggest content patch since the expansion Wrath of the Lich King was released. And I know the man who loves World of Warcraft, I thought I'd check in with you. You and I have both played a little bit of the content patch. Now, quickly, I'm sure everybody already knows this, but it's got a brand new gigantic high-level dungeon called Ulduar.
Yep.
It's got dual specs, so that means you can have 2 complete talent specs on your character.
And glyphs and switch between them.
Switch between them at will.
Hearthstone cooldown is now 30 minutes.
Well, we don't have to get into the minutia of
It's a big deal. That's a big deal.
But there are, like your mounts can swim. There's lots of little stuff. But the big stuff is the new
Content.
dungeon. Yeah, the new content. So you have been into Ulduar, right? I've been into Ulduar. I know that Dan doesn't play, so I'm gonna hit you up in 1 second. But let's have a little chat about what you think.
Well, first off, my experience with Ulduar is limited because I got into our guild. Our guild we had 3 groups of 25-man raids for Nax. Naxxramas, which was the original raid content for Wrath of the Lich King. Couple interesting things about Ulduar that they're doing is they have the 10-man version of Ulduar and the 25-man version of Ulduar. So 25-man gets you better loot than the 10-man, but they also have these varying hard modes.
Level of difficulty within each raid.
Which is how they did with it's not Sephiron,
the big
Obsidian Sanctum,
the big
which is
dragon.
just the big dragon fight, and he's got 3 friends, and it was very, very smart for them because they went, okay, well, you can kill the 3 friends and then kill the big dragon, not as hard.
Right.
Still hard, and you get good 25-man loot, 10-man loot, it's good loot. If you leave one of the dragons alive, his friends, it will join the fight, and the fight is now a harder fight. And you get better loot.
Right.
If you leave 2 dragons up, 3 dragons up, you get even better loot. And it was these ways of saying, look, you can do this raid and do it well once and you got it locked in, great. But if you get it locked in, you can do these things to make it harder and the loot gets better and better. But I mean, slightly better and better, but still better and better. So they did that throughout the entire raid instance of Ulduar. I made the mistake of going in our first 25-man raid progression the first night. So I got into our little vehicles. I was very excited.
Well, let's explain that a little bit. So, I mean, this is a major difference with the new content is that the first, even before you're actually officially in Ulduar, the sort of entrance to it has these tanks and motorcycles, and you have to sort of attack this series of...
It's called the Gauntlet.
Yeah, you have to attack
motorcycles?
Yeah,
or like
actual
dragon
motorcycles.
No,
motorcycles.
they're goblin. They're sort of steampunk-esque.
Okay.
But they're motorcycles.
Yeah, it's siege tanks and devastator, like different kinds of tanks and motorcycles, and they all have different abilities. And so you have like a passenger and a rider, and you go
like a gunner and a rider, and then you go through this
And at
gauntlet.
one point in the boss battle, you have to fling one of the characters who gets into a catapult, fling him onto the back of the giant enemy siege tank and attack it.
Awesome.
So it's completely different gameplay.
Which I think is so smart because they've been doing this, they've been one-upping themselves. First off, the original World of Warcraft came out almost 5 years ago, maybe even more than 5 years ago, and was very much a good, solid game, but it was very much, kill 10 of these, come back and level.
Yeah.
And even their raid bosses were a lot of kill 10 of these, and then 50,000 show up, and you need to kill those, and then, you know what I mean? Then Burning Crusades came out, which is when I really started getting into it, and when you go into the Outlands, the things that they have you do are so much more intricate. Like, they have the things where you get bombs, and you fly on a fly path, and you're bombing things down on the ground.
Right.
It's like, wow, that's so different. And I really feel like with Wrath of the Lich King, they kicked it up a notch, and with Ulduar, they've really kicked it up a notch. I mean, Winter's Grasp is a great example. Their big PvP expansion, like the big battleground, is that you get in tanks, you're doing all this little thing. It's like a game within a game, and we even talked about on Project Lore, we talked about the Nexus? No, the other one.
Nexus, yeah.
No, the Eye of something or other, the last 80 dungeon where you actually are on dragons yourself, and people have to be the tank dragons and the damage takers, the healers, and the DPSers. And it's this whole fight that has nothing to do with I'm a rogue.
Right,
This is
but
how
I think
attack.
that they did it even better now with
That's what I
because
mean.
there's
They're
so many
taking the next
different
level.
kinds of things to do.
Yeah, so I think it's super
Yeah, it's
fun.
it really changes the game a lot, which is very, very cool.
And we should say dual specs, again, complete game changer, because now you can have healers that are spec'd for healing and can be doing DPS, and it's like, oh, for this boss we only need 3 healers, so one of our healers can go switch to Shadow like that without skipping a beat and can start DPSing, because a lot of times we have that thing where like the off tank is doing damage, and now they can actually just switch over to a
now
DPS
we're speaking
spec.
in a language that 90% of our audience don't even
right.
understand.
It's fun.
So speaking of 90% of our audience, Dan, you
I can help them.
don't play WoW
Anymore.
right?
Right.
And you
is
never
a
really
shame.
got to
You
the
should come
end
back.
game stuff.
No.
So and one of the reasons I think is because you didn't want to pay $15 a month, right?
Yeah, sure, yes.
I mean, that's part of it. Guys, I have to stop.
I know the game you're playing right now, so yes.
Well, the game you're playing right now is called Runes of Magic. Now, Runes of Magic is a free-to-play MMO, and it is modeled remarkably similarly to WoW. The way you play, how it looks, keystrokes, everything. It's very much free WoW.
Yeah.
Now, you've been playing a little bit. I played it very little bit, but you checked it out a little more than I did. What was your impression?
Well, I'm going to help our audience out, because if they are mildly intrigued about WoW, but would never buy it for $50, $60 and then pay $50 a month, so they'll never know what it is because they're just not going to go down that road just to find out that they don't like it. Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl.
I love it.
Runes of Magic is WoW. It
really
is wow, but
With a few
with some improvements.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't
Interesting.
played the Wrath of the Lich King or this new expansion, so I don't know what has been changed in the World of Warcraft, but for the game you'd have to buy to play through first, WoW, this actually does some things better. The fact that you can always on your map see where the NPC, the person who gave you a quest, because when playing these games, it's about going on a quest and getting things and bringing it back to the person. And this game really makes things easy to do. It really ushers you through the playing of the game. So you can always know where you need to go and how you get there and all that stuff. You can even auto just send me to that location, right-click on a thing on a map, and it'll just send me to the
Also,
location.
I noticed I got a mount at level 2.
You got to mount right away, but then it goes away.
Yeah,
But here's
but
the cool
still.
thing: is you can, at any point through the game, you can buy a mount for 15 minutes at a time, and I got a mount right away again, and it went away. And then at level 10, I got hey, you can use this to get to that area that's far
Yeah.
away. So very cool.
Much more character customization?
How do
much
they
more.
do-
Also,
what's the money
2
making
classes.
It's exactly the same. There's trade skills. It's exactly the same.
No,
There's,
but I mean,
like,
how are the company making money on a free MMO?
Oh, I honestly don't know, because I never, which is one thing that's very important, I think, for this type of game, and to its credit, I never, ever hit a screen that said, hey, please send us money. Maybe that happens at really high levels, and there's like really super high level stuff that you pay money for, and maybe they allow the low level stuff to be completely free, but I never saw an ad in game, and I never was asked for money, ever.
Yeah, I agree. I made it to level 11, and at level 10 or 12, but at level 10, you choose a second class. and you constantly have 2 classes that you can switch. So I was a mage and a rogue, and I could play as a rogue, I can play as a mage, and it's a whole separate quest. But then you can just switch sort of, not on the fly, and you also have a house, which is interesting in the game.
I missed that about Star Wars Galaxies, because Star Wars Galaxies was you would have guild cities where you would literally purchase an area of land.
Age of Conan had that.
Yeah, I love that.
And there's some guild stuff in there. Anyway, it's a little bit bland, much like the beginning of, but even a little bit more bland than World of Warcraft. But the music is good. And it is. If you are not sure, this is totally the game, and it's a little bit easier to play than the beginning of World of
I
Warcraft.
saw really high-level characters running around.
Yeah.
You know?
What was the level cap? Do you remember?
50.
50? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, and it's pretty
crazy.
new. It just came out. Just came out of beta.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit because one of I think all of our favorite games as a kid was Lode Runner. Now this is a game, one of the first video games. It was back in 1983. It was written to give you an idea of how long ago it was written. It was written in Fortran and Pascal originally.
Love it.
And it has had an iteration on pretty much every conceivable PC or gaming console since. So if you haven't played Lode Runner, now there's a new version on Xbox Live Arcade, and it is quite definitely the most graphically upgraded version of Lode Runner. Now, Lode Runner is sort of this hybrid between Pac-Man and
Like a lock and chase, that
Lock
kind of game.
and chase. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
And you're avoiding enemies and collecting gold is the easiest way to describe it. The new version on Xbox Live Arcade involves a co-op mode, has other kinds of multiplayer, and it's a little expensive for an Xbox Live Arcade game. It's $15.
And you can make your own, it has level editors, so you can actually
Well,
make
that was
your
the
own
thing that Lode Runner always had, which is really ahead of its time. It originally shipped with a level editor back on the Apple II.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
That's back when
200
Borderbund published it.
Borderbund.
220 levels on the Xbox Live game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I mean, I freaking love this game. It's totally addictive. Like hours melt away while I'm playing it. What did you think?
Adore.
It's very N+. I mean, you can tell what
very
N+
N+.
kind of got the inspiration a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's N+. It's very arcade. It's very old school arcade where you have to shove those quarters in to keep on and develop the skills, the reflexive skills. We played a little bit in co-op mode, which was
How was it?
so fun. A lot of get over it!
Why are you over there?
The genius thing is that they add in these gold pieces that you cannot get unless you work together.
Smart.
Kind of like Little Big Planet, where when you go into the co-op places, you need to help each other. It's you touch that switch, I'll get this thing. That kind of gameplay.
That's cool.
Amazing. And there's also so you get the game, which is already rad, which is a combination of puzzle-like thinking and arcade-like reflexes, which to me is that's my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
It's that thinking while you're running.
Yeah,
It's always fun.
I don't mind.
You're like,
I mean, this is a game that this could have been. I mean, like the fact that nostalgia sets in, and oh my god, the hours I sunk into it as a kid. But even right now, if this had just come out without any of that, highly recommend. Because there's also not only just the one-player game, there's also the co-op game, and there's also a puzzle mode that I just spent hours. Difficult. How do I solve the puzzle? Amazing. Just trying to solve puzzles. So it's.
So you do think it's worth $15? Because $15 is a little steep.
Absolutely.
What about you, Alex?
I mean, agree. I mean, Lode Runner, huge fan of Lode Runner when it first came out. I mean, when it first came out, being that I first got a computer and was like, Lode Runner, I guess I can buy this because it's the only game out. Was awesome. This is that game plus, you know what I mean? Like, I love the graphics overhaul is great. The music, the different locations, I like the metal stuff when it comes out, where you're like,
the ice level and the
the
lava level.
Yeah. It's like, although I was sort of excited because I thought I was gonna slide, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be like a whole new layer of like
Frustration.
Exactly. But then I didn't slide, and I was like, all right, cool. It's just Yetis. I get it. Yeah, it was super fun. I haven't tried the puzzle stuff. I have a feeling I'm gonna love that.
Yeah.
And I haven't tried the co-op stuff, which I think I'm gonna love. But again, I think $15 nowadays, when a game comes out and it costs you $70, and you may not even get as much enjoyment out of it as you do this. I mean, $70
this
for
game
Weapons
would
of
be
Fate.
absolutely perfect if it was $10, but
What's $5? Come on.
And there's a level editor, so people are going to be constant. This game is never going. You're never going to finish this game. You're always going to have this game to play.
Yeah,
there's always going to be more stuff.
Even just the
And
220 levels.
I'm
of the
sorry,
single
but I
player.
got to 15th, the puzzle number 15. First of all, let me just say, puzzle number like 4 was like, holy crap, what do I do? It is tough, and there's like 50 of them. So.
I have one complaint. Well, two complaints. The first is the controls on the Xbox controller are a little loose, a little wonky. Sometimes when I wanted to drop down, I wouldn't drop down and I would die unnecessarily. A little bit, just the stick was a little, okay. The second complaint is the competitive multiplayer mode. I got into a few random games against people, and it's just who survives longest. Yeah. And there was a couple of levels where they have a tunnel that you can go back into, and it'll make you come out of a different part of the level.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And the guys I was playing with would just stand there and go bloop, bloop, bloop. And the enemies would go, oh, I'm gonna run up here. And he'd go bloop, and they go, oh, I'm gonna run down here, and then bloop. And it was just like, really? That's it? That's all we're gonna do? Lame. But I agree with you guys. Great game.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't talked about an Xbox Live Arcade game in a long time. This is really one that if you are too young to have played this yet, or if somehow you missed it, it is so awesome, and it does feel like a new game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think you even need to. I feel like it's like telling you about this great new game that came out.
Right.
Like it doesn't need. If you missed it, you should check it out because you missed it. It's like not that you're taking anything away from that, but it's like it's a great game to just go play. Like don't like feel that it's something I need to catch up on or whatever. Dude, it's awesome.
Love it. Love it. Yep.
So we're doing forums this week. We haven't done this one in a long time.
You may recognize this couch area.
Mother's Day.
From Mother's Day, good one.
Yeah.
And the Clue intro.
You know, I guess we aren't doing Mother's Day again. My mom called me.
All right. So the forum segment, people go to the Totally Rad Show forums.
Could've worked.
In the open mailbag,
wasn't
they
gonna let
ask
it
us
work.
questions, and we're going to rifle through as many as we can get through.
Yeah.
So Shaker Maker asks, what would you choose, going to the future or going to the past? To see how the world began or how the world will end?
I love this
Wow.
question because when I was a kid, I always wanted to go to the future. But now, as an adult, I feel like it's much more interesting to go to the past.
You just summed up life. That is life.
Dan, I love it. I, as an eternal optimist, would always choose to go into the future because as cool as Timeline, the book, not the movie, made the Middle Ages seem, or the Dark Ages seem, I don't think I would do well there.
Well, why is the only option? I mean, you're thinking far future and dark ages?
Yeah, are you thinking like,
No,
why
I'm
is
thinking,
there a future
no, I'm
cars?
thinking like
Or
four,
what if you're
4 days from now.
Are you
and,
thinking future from?
and Plague Town.
Are you thinking of future from Back to the Future 2? Or are you thinking future from
Blade Runner?
No, from no,
Running
even
Man?
beyond that, from AI, where it's like there's not even people anymore. We're just like boxes.
Wouldn't that be annoying if you're like, I'm gonna go
wanna
to
go
the
to
future
places
25
with
years, and you go 25 years, and it's like no one, it's desolate.
Yeah.
You're like, oh crap.
I should probably go back.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
It's a good one. What about you, Dan?
I don't know. I see value in both.
Okay, good.
Oh, way to obfuscate.
Miyamoto Freak asks, scenario, you're a famous director, sorry Dan, with a studio deal for one movie with a pre-established IP.
Oh, okay.
The studio only has video game licenses. Which video game do you choose to direct and why? Do you choose something with a very established story like Metal Gear Solid and try to adapt it, or do you choose something like Left 4 Dead where you would have more freedom to do whatever? Don't worry about budget.
Interesting.
I mean, I will say, this isn't even like what I would love to be the guy to make this movie. But it doesn't really make sense to me that they don't have an active development, a Legend of Zelda movie. I feel like there must be a rights issue, because that just is like, yes, no brainer, let's do it. We didn't talk about in the show that Shadow of the Colossus is now in active development, and if it were
jealous.
me, I would be Shadow Colossus and Ico. I would do them both. I would have leading around a blind girl against huge things.
Sounds amazing.
I'm not jealous because I'm going to make that movie.
It's interesting that you immediately went to Link Legend of Zelda because what I immediately went to was Metroid. I think Metroid is a movie that's doable.
I think first-person
problem-
shooters are a problem.
The problem with Metroid, it wasn't always a first-person shooter, but
No, I know.
and even the issue with Halo is people in helmets.
No, but Metroid is different than Halo because the whole thing about Metroid is that We know what's under that helmet, and you could have her without the helmet the whole time.
You could have her without. You would have her not.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think the helmet in Metroid is essential to the character.
I'm gonna blow your
in the
guys'
same way that
mind.
Master Chief is.
I'm gonna go blow your guys' mind. Tween comedy, Joust.
Tween comedy.
Like a Knight's Tale kind of.
Futuristic, flying ostriches.
It's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with teens.
Right, but flying ostriches is really the thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the selling point. That's what I get asked.
That's what you go in and the guy with the big cigar goes, I don't get it. And you go, Miley Cyrus on a flying ostrich. And they go, that's sold, sir.
Hey guys, this is Totally Radish show. Hey guys, quick question. What in your opinion is the single greatest scene in a movie where the film has been edited perfectly with a song, i.e. Kill Bill, etc.? Thanks.
First thing that comes to my head is Magnolia.
I thought of Magnolia,
Interesting.
and I would agree with that because that song, that moment in that movie is the quintessential moment of the movie, and it is a moment that I refer to often in life to A, it helps guide my life, B, helps give me advice to other people, just what is happening
probably
in that,
see that movie.
in that moment.
It's the one with frogs, right?
But it's also a little bit of a, I don't know if that's a cheat for the question.
I'm gonna go ahead and say
Run
Run Lola Run. I think Run Lola Run was for me really nailed the pitch of the songs to the
problem
the
is that's
fervor of
a
what
little
was
bit,
going on.
That's a little bit.
They can't all be cheats.
It's score. I mean, that's kind of the score to the movie.
Oh well, yeah. Then Eye of the Tiger, Rocky,
Okay.
and I'm done.
Well, what are you gonna say, Mister? I thought about this ahead of time.
Well, no. Well, there's a couple that I thought you guys were gonna say, which is
the whole point of this is that you're not supposed to think of it ahead of time.
Beetlejuice. Say anything. Yeah.
But that's not edited to that song. That's a song.
That moment is edited to that song, and
But
it
it's a
carries through to them
song-
making love in the car for the first time.
But it's also a cheat. If mine's a cheat, this is a cheat because yours is a cheat because it's.
no, my real cheat hasn't happened yet. But yeah.
All of the characters hear that song, rather than it just being a scene
not
edited to the song.
diegetic.
It isn't.
No, I'm saying you're saying then it's non-diegetic.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Well, I was going to say I have two that are my top. The end song of the Breakfast Club. It's mostly over end credits, but it happens a little bit before those end credits when she's giving that speech that says teenagerism to the T. And then when it comes on in the end, and it is. The other one is you think it's score, but it's actually a Moby song at the end of Heat. The whole end battle sequence in the airport, the whole end sequence. I mean, a little bit. The whole end sequence in the airport is put to a Moby song, and it's God Moving with the Face of the Water, and it feels like the score to the movie because the score is very close to that song, but I think that's the most powerful.
Epic.
No, you know what? I'm gonna own this entire thing, and it's not a movie; it's a TV show, and I can't spoil it for you guys, but it's the end of 6 Feet Under is the best marriage of song and information
Interesting.
ever.
Awesome.
All right, well, before we say our fine farewells, we do want to thank our lovely sponsors, GoDaddy.com. If you need your .com names, .net, .info, .ly, .tv, .whatever, don't know why I said it that way, head over to GoDaddy.com. They got great startup software to get you going on your new website, as it were. Plus .com names as low, or domain names as low as $1.99. And if you use our promo code TRS1, you can save an additional $10 off your order of $40 or more. Get your piece of the internet, GoDaddy.com.
Hey guys, we got a new sponsor.
Who?
New sponsor!
Every time we want to do that, and I didn't. We're not
You guys
gonna
don't
do it.
you guys don't have my
Wait,
back.
is that from something?
No, it's me making up a thing that you guys are ignoring.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
from
our
the
new
Totally
sponsor.
Rad Show.
See, here's the thing. You've heard Dan talk about Netflix because Dan thinks this is a show about movies. But you and I know this is a show about video games. So what you really should be signing up for immediately is GameFly. It works like Netflix, but for video games. Starts as low as $15.95 a month, and you can have up to, I think, 4 games at once. They have all kinds of classic titles and new stuff coming out. When you get the game, you can play it for a little while, and if you want to keep it, you just go to their website and click, I want to purchase this, and you buy it at a discounted price.
And they send you the box and the manuals and everything.
Right, so there's no reason, it's completely risk-free because if you buy a game and you realize, hey, you know what, this is like Wanted was, where
Super
I
quick, I'm
finish
done.
it in a night, send it right back, get the next one. Or if it's a game like Fallout 3 and you go, oh my god, I have to play this forever.
Yep.
Buy it and you get some
Or
money
you
off.
can just have it for a while. You know, that's a beauty
Or you
of
can just
that
keep
kind-
it. Yeah, there's no late fees.
Right.
Yeah.
No reason not to.
You have 4.
So go to gamefly.com/TTRS,
For
which
the Totally Rad
Show. Go figure. And you'll get...
TRS was already taken.
It was?
Yeah,
We
for
have to hurt some people.
Trans, recreational,
Republican,
supreme beings.
Wow.
And the
You
beings
guys are not good
the
at
beings
that.
is silent.
Anyway, you get what, 10% off your order if you go to TTRS?
No, 2-week free
Oh,
trial.
2-week free trial,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it is. Which is super cool because then you can see how quickly the stuff comes.
Yeah.
Check out their selection, super cool. Gamefly.com/TTRS.
Also sponsoring the show is Squarespace, which is website building
And hosting.
So, you know, like when you're playing a video game, like a car game, and you can customize your car to make it look exactly how you want it? That's basically what this is like. It's that easy with websites. Like in those games where you just select that color, select that wheel, select that. That is what this is like with websites. And you
good way to
make
put it.
awesome looking websites. You need no coding experience to make them
Dan
look.
could do it.
To make
My
them look.
website actually got me the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
did.
I don't know if you've seen past
For best
episodes.
design
We
episode.
thought it was just the Time Magazine greatest website of all time, but in fact it was the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, it was.
There's actually a Nobel Peace Prize in fighting.
So you can see, if you go to jeffcanada.com, you can check it out, alexalbrecht.com.
Yeah.
It's all been built on Squarespace.
And of course, Dan Trachtenberg.
DanTrachtenberg.com. So if you go to squarespace.com and you use the promo code TRS,
Yep.
you get 10% off the entire lifetime of your order.
Amazing stuff, squarespace.com. Also, be sure to check out DigReel. This week, Andrew went over to check out the guys at Mythbusters, which was awesome, fun time.
Mythbusters.
Yeah, it was super good time. So check it out, digreel.com, I think, or revision3.com/digreel. But also, they have new shows every Wednesday. So, in lieu of email, we did a little forums actions, but in the future, if you would like to have your email answered on the show, please feel free to send it to fans@totallyradshow.com.
That's also, you would send us a background like our
like
friend did. Or if you'd like to send us pronunciations, that's also where you would send them.
Awesome.
I love
I
it.
fear for the pronunciations we're gonna get. Also, if you want to have your question in the next forum segment, go to our forums. If you just want to hang out with some cool folks, talk about stuff. You know, actually, I got an email from somebody in the forums, our buddy Scooby Diesel.
Nice.
And he told us that there is a meetup being planned for Comic-Con this year.
Oh, cool.
Because we are, hopefully, doing a live show at Comic-Con.
Yes,
And there's a bunch of people
hopefully.
from the forums who are all going to have like a TRS fan, impromptu, not even us organizing, it's them
We're
organizing
actually
it.
not allowed to go. I got an email that said, I'm just kidding. Fans only.
Parade pooper over here. Yeah, good, check out the forums. Go to totallyradshow.com.
Forever, I just gotta,
Sign up for the forums.
That's a parade
Oh,
pooper.
God.
Also on the website, totallyradshow.com is the movie we're going to review ahead of time so you can be in on our discussion. Next week, it's going to be Wolverine.
Is that like Wolverine, X-Men Originals?
We might, that's correct. We might try and go see this little movie that could, Battle for Terror. Not sure if we can, but apparently the director is a big fan of our show, and it's this tiny little animated movie in 3D that you can all go check out that's competing against the big guns, so see it if you can.
Also, if you want to find out everything we're talking about next week and maybe want to submit a mission video,
True.
go to totallyradshow.com/missions on or about Wednesday. Make us a cool mission video, and you might be at the beginning of our episode.
How crazy. Well, that is it for this week's edition of The Totally Rad Show. I'm Alex Albrecht.
I'm Jeff Canada.
I'm Dan Trachtenberg.
Until next time.
What? Is that like...
This week's episode of I'm getting there. Here we go. Fighting!
Y'all?
I'm ready.
No! Yeah, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Mike. You shouldn't get the noise canceling headphones.
Honestly, want to have
If they're noise canceling headphones, it should have canceled that.
Yeah, no.
Ignore sing-source.
There was just stuff in the air, and I just was like, gonna do that and then say the thing, and then I was like, that
That says it all. That says it all.
was enough.